Hi guys, and big welcome to a cEDH card review, or something of a small set review for the April 20th March of the Machine Aftermath, a sort of bonus release here. So we have a few new commanders to go through and also a few new instants, enchantments and normal creatures as well. Well, let's begin from the top. So first out we have Narset Enlightened Exile, which is white, red, blue and one generic, human monk 3/4. Legendary creature human monk. Creatures you control have prowess. Whenever this thing attacks, exile target non-creature non-land card with mana value less than Narset's power from a graveyard and copy it. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. Wow! That's like what Kess does. It's kinda better because you don't actually need to pay mana for it. And you can cast enchantments and artifacts. You can cast your Breach from your graveyard with this thing. That is actually pretty amazing. You can cast your Heuristic Study from your graveyard. Gamble is gonna be pretty crazy with this commander actually. Because you can just gamble for like Underworld Breach. And if you accidentally discard Underworld Breach, then just attack and you have Underworld Breach in play. And also you have prowess on this thing. So if you wanna cast... well, what are you gonna cast? It's 4 CMC really in cEDH when I think about it. It's not that. Smothering Tide. Like if you wanna cast a Smothering Tide from your graveyard, then you need to cast like a Brainstorm first. She becomes a 4/5 attack and you can cast a Smothering Tide from your graveyard. Pretty cool. Honestly, I really like this. It looks honestly like a really fun commander, but really good one too. Like you have some form of like combo rebuild potential, like they counter your Underworld Breach, you attack with your commander, you recast your Underworld Breach, so you're good to go for like a second combo attempt with this commander, but also you have something of like a value engine. Like you can sit and cast your Brainstorms, your Ponders, your Serum Visions for Kardra whenever this attacks. It could probably punch face pretty good too. Like with prowess it will grow in power kinda easily and eventually it becomes like something of an 8 power attack. So I think in a world where you're going to like a strange game, this commander could actually go to something of a beatdown strategy. It has a really low CMC cost, like 4 mana is kinda fine. It could be lower, but honestly I think it would be broken if it was lower too. But you're not really looking to get this into play as fast as you can either. Like this is something you throw in depending on the game. Like Jeskai is currently really good at comboing off and winning with his Underworld Breach and other tricks. So I kind of like it. It feels like a perfect commander for the current meta and the current flow of how cEDH decks kind of works. You get it into play a little bit later and then you just use it either for value or to rebuild your combo or just beating someone to pulp fiction. Let's move forward and look at Samut. I have a feeling a lot of cards in here is not gonna be that good. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, if that creature entered the battlefield this turn, draw a card. This is basically Haste Tribal in Gruul. First strike, vigilance and haste, 2/3. It's a pretty good attacker for only 3 mana. So you will have this into play like turn 2, very consistently, because this is green. So you can have a turn 1 Dork, turn 1 Samut, attack with Samut the same turn and draw a card. So consistently the turn 2 you're always drawing a card with this thing. How many creatures in cEDH on red-green with haste are actually good? So in all together, like I like it, I think it's good, but what it's doing isn't really what cEDH wanna do right now. If that one generic mana was a black, blue or maybe white, this would be a lot better, because then you could build more game plans with it. Because that's where I think this one struggles right now. I think it's going to be hard to find enough haste creatures that you can include inside this deck to make this work really good. Because there is a chance that you're just gonna make a deck filled with really bad cards. But it makes Ragavan pretty amazing. We have Dash on Ragavan. So it's basically 2 mana, gain a treasure, flip a card from an opponent and draw a card. Then it goes back to your hand and you can redo it next turn. So there are some really great potentials here. I'm just not seeing the finalized win con, but on the other hand, as long as your commander is able to draw cards efficiently, your win con could be whatever. So I shouldn't rule it out. Like card draw is good, and low CMC cost commander with card draw is good. Low color identity is a problem, but Gruul, it should be okay. I honestly kind of like it. I'm just a little bit skeptic of like... I think it's gonna flow pretty good and have like a card draw effect, but I think the part where how it's gonna interact is gonna be tricky, but also how it's gonna win is gonna be tricky. Sarkhan Soul Aflame. He's blue-red. That's a little bit different compared to what Sarkhan usually is. Legendary creature, human shaman. Isn't this guy a planeswalker originally? Yeah, he's a planeswalker. What happened to this guy? Dragon spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. That's not good because we're not really playing Dragon Tribal in Commander. Or well, in cEDH. In Commander we're definitely playing Dragon Tribal here and there, but not in cEDH. Whenever a dragon enters the battlefield under your control, you may have a Sarkhan Aflame become a copy of it until a turn, except it has the Sarkhan Soul. It's a legendary. So when a dragon comes into play, it becomes a copy of that dragon. So it's a free CMC creature that later becomes really big. I think it's good in like casual EDH inside a Dragon Tribal deck, because in Dragon Tribal those decks are like really expensive, so you would need some way of getting your dragons into play a little bit more efficient, and this is a way to get like extra dragons, so to say. So it's probably really good in casual, kind of spot on what a dragon, the 5-colored Ur dragon would want. Reducing the casting cost of your dragons and making more big bossy dragons that attacks. But he's not good for competitive commander, so to say. The higher power level he kind of falls off. Don't do this. Kiora, blue and green. 5 mana, vigilance and ward free for a force 5. Whenever you cast a Kraken, Leviathan, Octopus or Serpent spell from your hand. Okay, not really good in competitive commander either, because those cards are really expensive and they're only stompy. Look at the top X cards of your library, where X is that spell's mana value. You may cast a spell with mana value less than X from among them without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So it's like blue, Kraken, Tribal. It's not really good. This used to be a Planeswalker too. Yeah, I think we have a theme going here. A lot of Planeswalker previously are now becoming creatures. But this is probably a little bit expensive in casual even, when I think about it. Like if you want to build a really big Kraken Stompy creature deck, then I guess this is your commander to go for, but it's still like a 5 CMC creature. Like you would probably want to have a lower CMC creature to enable your Kraken Tribal thing, because your Kraken's gonna be expensive, this commander is expensive, it doesn't really flow correctly, I think. Like Kinnan is probably better here. If you want to play like a Kraken Tribal in casual, do this instead, because he will help you cast your Krakens from your hand, and you can pump mana into the guy to flip Krakens from your deck into play instead by doing it with this Kiora. That is just 5 mana too expensive. Then we have this Nissa, Resurgent Animist. It's a 3 mana free. That's pretty good. Elf Scout, landfall. Whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, add 1 mana of any color. Then, if this is the first or second time this ability has resolved this turn, reveal cards on top of your library until you reveal an elf or an elemental card. Put that card into your hand, and the rest in the bottom of your library in random order. This is actually pretty good. This is actually like really good, but also it's like good, but it's not really what we want to do currently in the metagame. So Lotus Cobra is a really good cEDH card that no one plays. Landfall, whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, add 1 mana of any color. Nissa, Resurgent Animist, will do the same thing, but only 2 times, which is enough. Like, play fetch land, crack fetch land, gain 2 mana. That's really good actually. Lotus Cobra will do it continuously throughout the entire turn, regardless of how many lands you put into play, but like, normally you don't need that many Lotus Cobra triggers. The basic answer is that if you're playing Lotus Cobra inside your 99 and you want to have an additional copy of your Lotus Cobra, then Nissa is pretty good here, because she's also drawing cards for you. She's removing elves, dorks from your mana from your deck, which is good. Like drawing into a land or elf is an upside. It's gonna decrease the chance of drawing that land or elf later in the game. So I like it, but I don't really see like a cEDH deck playing this. I do see Lotus Cobra in cEDH decks like now and then in various mid-range decks, so I could see this one actually popping up. But the big problem is that it's not really on pair what the cEDH metagame is kind of trying to do right at the moment. Everyone is trying to be very fast, very turbo, combing off as fast as possible, and Lotus Cobra is more of a mid-range card, value engine, so to say, a little bit of that slower game plan where you're more focused towards lands. But currently the cEDH decks are shrinking in lands, like we're down to 24, 26 and 28, so to say. So I don't really see this one doing it, but it's a meta thing, and that's something that could definitely change. But also it can vary depending on the form of meta you're playing in. If you're playing in more longer stacks, your grindier game, then this is probably a great value card. I have a Sultai Rat Shaman, Nashi. For only 3 mana, 3/4, so you get this into play turn 2 very consistently, because you're going to play once again dorks, Menace and Ward 1. I really like Ward, by the way. It's a very good and balanced protection for creatures. Whenever Nashi Moon Legacy attacks, exile up to one target legendary or rat card from your graveyard and copy it, you may cost the copy. This is very similar to Narset, the Jeskai that we looked at first, except we have to pay mana this time. This is kinda unfair. However, the casting cost of this creature is lower, so I guess you could play this inside cEDH because cEDH is very legendary tribal, and you could use this rat to rebuild your legendary board state, so to say. But honestly, I think cEDH has better tools than this. Lurrus is currently doing a fantastic job of what Nashi would in theory do here, because you can reanimate more things. You can recast Docksides and Mystic Remoras and Mana Rocks and other things with your Lurrus that Nashi can't really do. And you don't really need to bring back some of the more expensive things, like the cheaper legendary things to reanimate that Lurrus can reanimate is fine enough. As a card as it on its own, like a commander, I don't really see that many Sultai legendaries that you can create a deck from that will like what is this? It's a very weak card draw value engine, so to say. It has a condition that you need to put your legendaries into your, or rats into your graveyard, and then you're gonna reanimate them. I think it's good for some form of like rat tribal in casual, where you're discarding rats to your graveyard, you're attacking and casting rats from the graveyard. But other than that, I don't really see it going far in a competitive environment, so to say. Like the power level of this is lower, definitely. Niv Mizzet Supreme, 5 color. I like new 5 color commanders, by the way. One of each color, 5/5. Flying, hexproof from monocolored, so you can't target this with the Swords of Plowshares. That's actually really good, because most spot removals that will kill this is on monocolors. Like Assassin's Trophy is like one of the only things that will actually get rid of this thing. So it's very well protected with hexproof from monocolored here. Each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard that's exactly 2 colors has jump start. Now at first glance that's like amazing. However, at second glance it's not so good. Once again, we're mostly playing monocolored things in the cEDH format. We absolutely have some multicolored cards, like, oh, sorry, it has to be 2 colors exactly, by the way. I really like that design, by the way. I do like that they're going with the Ravnica theme on this dragon. I really like that. But besides like Limdo's Vault, Abrupt Decay, Assassin's Trophy, there aren't that many dual color cards in cEDH that we usually play. Like most things are just monocolored. The best cards are usually monocolored. I kind of like the Niv Mizzet Reborn more. It has a bigger card draw effect on it compared to this guy. So when you get your Niv Mizzet Reborn into play, you're gonna draw all of your multicolored cards. I've actually built a deck like that, and it kinda works. It's a little bit tricky to get it going, but it's very non-commander centric. It's a deck that is trying to be a good 5-color deck generic on its own, and it really struggles in a way that where if you're putting too many dual colored cards inside the deck, it doesn't really flow that well, because suddenly you have a lot of really bad cards inside your deck. They just demand synergy. A very important concept is that if you're trying to achieve synergy by including bad cards, you're going to end up with a bad deck. You want to include cards that are individually good on their own, that don't need a commander, but will synergize with the commander and become even better if you have your commander. And that's Limdo's Vault, but that's it. Or well, they're more than Limdo's Vault, but you get the picture. Dantia, New Benelit's Light, Celestia for only 3 mana, 2/2, white, green and 1 generic, Human Knight, Vigilance, Trample, Lifelink. Once during each of your turn, you may cast an aura or equipment spell from your graveyard. It's a really big theme in this set with like returning things from the graveyard currently. Regardless, it is not good. Equipments in Celestia and auras in Celestia have never been a thing in cEDH. Like what are you gonna do with this actually? I guess the game plan would to be the draw and discard equipments to your graveyard and then cast them to basically gain value. Rebuild mechanics for your equipment Voltron strategy. Like it has Vigilance, Trample and Lifelink, so it really screams Voltron. But Voltron has never been a thing, so this is not that good. Ooh, we have red-white, only red-white. Pianalar, Console of Revival. Human Artificer. Top decks you control have haste. Whenever you play a land from exile or cast a spell from exile, create a 1/1 colorless top tier artifact creature token with flying. I like it. It doesn't enable its ability in any form of way. However, there's a lot of cards in the format currently that could enable this. Now this is only producing tokens, and tokens isn't really well, wait a minute. Could Vinota like this? Vinota would in theory love this. However, I don't think Venota is going to be able to fuel this. Like, there's no way Venota can continuously cast spells from exile continuously throughout the game. So there's a chance that this Pia Nalar is just sitting there and not producing any Topters. So that's sad. Venota can cast a few spells from exile here and there, but it's not really what she's doing on a regular basis. And I think Venota would be like the only thing that would make this card pop up in cEDH, so to say, currently. So not good. Kinda like it, it's kinda cool, but it's not good. White and black. Irina, Doubtless General. Legendary human soldier 2/2 for only 1 white and 1 black. When she enters the battlefield, exile target player's graveyard. Sacrifice her. Humans you control gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. It's actually not that bad for Cece. If she had flash, that would be amazing. I really think this creature should have flash. Remove the part where you sacrifice her and give her flash instead, because then you can interact with like an Undual Breach on the stack. Because the part where she enters the battlefield and exile a graveyard is actually really good. That's like proper good interaction in the current metagame of sorts. And it's definitely something CC could like tutor out. CC only needs to be a 3/3 in order to do this. So that's like proper CC activation interaction. But if you have this in your hand, you can't cast it. Oh, you can, but not in instant speed. And you really need to be able to interact with this in instant speed against an Undual Breach. Or well, you can cast it and just remove the entire graveyard to make sure that the futuristic Undual Breach is weaker. It's also good versus Mnemonic Betrayal, so to say. So I like it. It is a proper cEDH legendary CC tribal interaction. Your humans you control gain hexproof and indestructible in the turn. I like that too. Like, you can actually use this to protect Cece when Cece wanna combo off. Protect Nayela inside CC as well, and Kinnan. So I like it. But I only think this is gonna be something for CC, and I don't think it's like an auto-include. It's not a mega all-star legendary for CC, but it's like on point of what CC wanna have. It's a small option upgrade for her, so to say. Really like it. It doesn't have flash, but I might actually have it inside my deck for a while just to play test it and see how it flows. We have a new Rocco, Street Chief. Legendary Elf Druid 4, white, green and red. At the beginning of your end step, each player exile a top card of their library. Until your next end step, each player may play... No! Oh, this is a group hug card. Whenever a player plays a land from exile or casts a spell from exile, you put a +1 counter on target creature and create a food token. It's basically giving card draw to each player. What is worse is that you're exiling cards at the beginning of your end step, which means that you're gonna get an exile the moment you cast this thing. However, you're not allowed to cast your thing until your next turn, which is sometimes fine, because you can get this guy into play efficiently turn 2, once again, green, dork, then you get this into play turn 2 with 2 lands. And then you get a trigger, you exile something from everyone, but your opponent's gonna benefit from the exile before you. On the other hand, maybe that doesn't really matter. On your next turn, you can benefit from what you've exiled, because then you untap and so to say. This is gonna be great with a Draenei Magistrate. I think Draenei Magistrate is gonna be an auto-include inside this guy. Putting +1/+1 counters on creatures is like a tiny bonus. It's not that good. Like, it will be a beatdown potential from this guy eventually, and you're creating food tokens that you could utilize in various ways. Like Meria that can tap these... No, sorry, she can't. Non-token artifact. Can't synergize with that. That's so sad. But Gear Parader Grid could make your food into lightning bolts. That works. But honestly, I don't really like group hug stuff. It is very risky. So I'm gonna say be cautious of playing this thing. Probably really fun in casual. It's gonna speed up the casual gameplay, but don't wanna do that in cEDH. Plarg and Nasiri. Orc Ifrit. Mono red 5 mana. At the beginning of your upkeep, each player exiles cards on top of their library. Until then, they exile a non-land card. An opponent chooses a non-land card exiled this way. You may cast up to 2... Oh, wait, what? You may cast up to 2 spells from among the cards exiled this way without paying their mana cost. This is actually kinda good. I actually really like it. So you're going to 100% exile 4 things that are not lands. So there's always been a problem with the top exile things from Paco and Tibalt and the other guys, that you could accidentally exile a land, which isn't bad all the time because they can actually do land drops. But in this situation, you are 100% getting a non-land hit and all the lands will go to exile, so to say. However, among the 4 things, you're only casting 2 things, so you're casting half of the things that you're generating. However, you don't need to pay mana for them, and they're usually pretty good hits. However, you're gonna get the 2 weakest hits. But the 2 weakest hits aren't that bad either. You're probably gonna get like a Mana Rock, an Elf, a Brainstorm, Serum Vision, a Sword to Plowshare, an Abrupt Decay. Like it should hit pretty good. And once again, you don't need to pay mana for them. Now it's only mono red and it's 5 mana, so it's quite expensive. The game plan would be to ritual out these guys into play as fast as you can, which isn't that hard in mono red. Red has a lot of rituals, we have a lot of artifacts that achieve a lot of fast mana, and then you sit and just value through the game a tiny bit. A big problem here is that it's like value into what? Like you need a win con. Your win con is probably gonna be some form of Underworld Breach combo here, which will synergize with all the red rituals you play to get this commander into play, by the way. I guess you could build a deck focused around your Dance of Calamity, so to say. It would be really sad if you exile that with your commander here, because you can't actually cast, or you can, but no one is gonna give you the Dance of Calamity, so to say, because it's up to your opponent's decision. No, wait, I read this one wrong. An opponent chooses a non-land card exiled this way. You may cast up to 2 spells, so you're only removing the best spell. So you're not casting the best and the worst, you're casting the 2 middle things. This is making this actually pretty amazing, because there's usually pretty good hits among the top 3 things you're gonna exile with this thing. Regardless, however, you're probably not gonna get the Dance of Calamity with this thing, because that would be like the best spell your deck is built around if you have that inside your deck, so to say. But you could get really good hits from your opponents because of the fact that you're not getting lands. And then once again going, yeah, I think this is gonna be great. I like it. It is a little bit random. It is a little bit slow, mid-rangey and grindy, but it can absolutely play the turbo way of red rituals into Breach, into Wheels, into Gamble, into a form of Underworld Breach combo. I might honestly try this one out. I'm a really big fan of Tibalt and Paco. I think they are pretty cool, pretty fun. They have some potential, and this is a variant to those. So I think I'm gonna give this one a go. I don't think this is busted, but I think it has something going for it. What is this? Human Berserker, Mono Red, Arnie, Metal Brow. 3 mana for a free whenever a creature you control attacks or a creature enters the battlefield under your control. Attacking, you may pay red and 1 generic. If you do, you may put a creature card with mana value less than the creature's mana value from your hand onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. So you're correct. No, it's actually really decent with the Samut Vizier of Naktamun, because this could help you get creatures into play and connect to face and draw cards with Samut. But I'm a little bit torn here, honestly. Not super sold on this guy. But he isn't entirely Garbo. There is a Grand Abolisher. So you have this Arnie, Metal Brow inside your 99 of, let's say, Venota. And you attack with a creature, you can pay red and 1 generic and just put Grand Abolisher into play. Boom. That's a very sneaky way of getting a Grand Abolisher into play without opponents getting the option to Force of Will it. I like that. The same can be said with Dockside, so you can trick a lot of creatures into play, making it really hard for your opponents to interact with them. But honestly, we can already do that in other efficient ways. But he shouldn't be overlooked. There's definitely a world where this guy could surprise opponents by tricking very cheap creatures into play. So not great, but not bad either. Decent is the finalized word. Now I have a really expensive creature. Death Rattle Uni, Demon Spirit for 7 mana. This spell costs 2 less to cast for each creature that died this turn. Destroy all other creatures that were dealt damage this turn. It's a very strange board wipe. It has flash. You could actually pay just 1 black mana for this in theory. I don't like it. It's a little bit expensive and it has a really big condition, and achieving this condition isn't that easy. What you want to have is a really cheap effect that is doing what this creature is doing, destroy all other creatures that were dealt damage this turn. That condition is also really tricky, so no, it's not good. Cosmic Rebirth. Choose target permanent card in your graveyard. If it has mana value 3 or less, you may put it onto the battlefield. If you don't, put it into the battlefield, put it in your hand instead, and you gain 3 life. I like it. There's a lot of different things that you can bring back from your graveyard directly into play for only 3 mana. It's very similar to that Sevin's Reclamation. Pretty much doing the close to exact same thing, except that you can target bigger things, but with Cosmic Rebirth you can get it to your hand. You also gain free life, which is kind of cool. However, Sevin's has flashback, so overall Sevin's is better. But if you want another version of Sevin's, then here you go. Like, you can bring back Underworld Breach, your Grand Abolisher, and other cool effects with this from your graveyard directly into play. So it has value. I just think that there are other cards in the format currently that are doing the same thing that this, but better. If you want to have more version of Sevin's, then this is good. If you don't want to have more version of Sevin's, then you're not gonna include this inside your deck, basically. Rebuild the city. I kinda like, this is Yund, and Yund are very famous for destruction. Like, how are Yund gonna rebuild the city? This should be Bunt? Regardless, choose target land. Create 3 tokens that are copies of it, except they are 3 free creatures in addition to their other types, and they have vigilance and menace. Wait. You're creating 3, so you're creating 3 lands, but you're also creating 3 creatures with vigilance and menace. The lands are also affected by summoning sickness. Now this is very expensive. 6 mana. It's like a ramp spell, so to say. It's creating lands for you, but also creating tokens like Creatures Beatdown. Not really good in cEDH. It's too expensive. It's not really doing what cEDH wants to do, but it's kind of cool spell. It's a proper ramp spell for casual. Reckless Handling. Search your library for an artifact card, reveal it, put it into your hand, shuffle, then discard a card at random. If it's an artifact card, discard this way, deals 2 damage to each opponent. Like, more gamble, more good. I like it. I could see a lot of people play this, honestly. Now gamble is obviously way better, but like, if you playing mono red, or if you need more tutors and you want to tutor for an artifact, then this is fine. Like, this will find your Lion's Eye Diamond, so to say. And Lion's Eye Diamond is usually very key in breach strategies, so yeah, I like it. It's definitely a typical case of there are already cards that are doing the same thing but way better than this thing. However, if you want more versions of that really good gamble, then here you go. I could see people play this just for that fact, that they want to increase their tutoring power and they already think gamble is pretty good inside their deck anyways. Vesuvian Drifter, Shapeshifter, Flying. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. At the beginning of each combat, you may reveal the top card of your library. If it is a revealed creature card this way, Vesuvian Drifter becomes a copy of that card until on turn, except it has Flying. Not that good. This is a typical like casual, really fun card. We're gonna flip and top and see what it becomes. It could become a really big thing, but in cEDH, it is still pretty good. For a very, or well, pretty good is actually an overstatement here, but the trick is to use one of your many different top deck tutors. Search your library for a creature card, reveal it, and put it to all players, shuffle, and put that card back on top of it. So you find like Villis, you find Razaketh, you find something really big, and then you have a trick to get that Razaketh or Villis ability into play for only 3 mana, or well, 4 in this case, so to say. And it's also at the beginning of combat, each combat actually. But there's a lot of different ways you can you manipulate and trick creatures to the top of your library, so to say. And hey, there's literally a chance that it's already up there on the top of your library. Who knows? You could be really lucky. But you're basically playing this inside cEDH for that trick to put this on top of your library in a form of way. This could also be a way to like get Protean Hulk on top of your library, then sacrifice the Vesuvian Drifter and you have a Hulk trigger. So there are plays and there are worlds where someone would play this and utilize it in some form of way, but it's another one of many different ways to get your Hulk trigger, so to say, or get your Villas. I could see someone do this. It's not it's not stupid. It could do something. Not impossible, so to say. Urborg Scavengers. When Urborg Scavenger enters the battlefield or attacks exiled target card from a graveyard, put that +1% counter on Urborg Scavenger. It has... Nah, this is not good. This is just gaining various abilities for a 3 mana 2/2 and it grows. It's like good at interacting with your opponent's graveyards here and there, but honestly, it's a little bit slow. Scavenging Ooze is doing the same thing but better. We have better ways to interact with the graveyard, so this is not cEDH. It's not out of order, but it's just not... There are just better cards for it. Distribute X +1% counters among any number of target creatures you control, where X is the number of creatures cards in your graveyard as you cast this spell. Creatures you control gain vigilance until end of turn for 3 mana. this is not good. This is sadly just +1% counters on creatures, and it's a very big, like you need a lot of creatures to make this really explosive. Probably great in casual, but not good here. Anje is getting a new madness creature with Convoke and Lifelink. Other vampires you control get +1/+1. Yeah, I like it. Or well, Anje likes it. Anje will like everything that is madness, regardless of whatever the creature card actually does. So yeah, improvement for Anje. Dinosaur, 3 mana, 3/3. When it enters, you may pay a green mana up to 3 times. When you do, you may get an option and you may choose different options up to the amount of times you pay the 1 green mana when it comes into play. Destroy target artifact or enchantment, exile target player's graveyard, or gain 4 life. It's not bad, but it's a bit expensive. For example, if you want to destroy 3 artifacts, you have to pay 6 mana for this, and that's a little bit expensive, honestly. You normally don't need to destroy that many artifacts, and if you're gonna destroy like that many artifacts, you can just play Meltdown, because for only 3 mana you will basically destroy all artifacts instead, and that's way better mana efficiency. Now it is a creature, so it's green, it's different, other colors, but yeah, no. Not useless, but too expensive. Wait a minute! Enchanted legendary creature. Enchanted creature has ward 2 and tap. Add 5 mana in any combination of colors. Spend this mana only to cast spells. Okay, no. Never mind. It was almost a combo card, a 1-card combo for Cise. Could have been great. But now it's just a value engine card for various other commanders out there that are on 5 color in general. So no, it doesn't need to be in 5 color, because you can gain 5 mana in any form of combination of colors, but it's still a little bit expensive. I could see someone play this just to gain a lot of mana from something. The trick in this is to equip it to a legendary creature, your commander, that can untap somehow. There has to be a legendary creature out there somewhere that can untap itself somehow and perform a 1-card combo with this thing. It has to be green though. Nayela is pretty much that answer, so to say. But Nayela already wins pretty efficiently without this, so I don't think Nayela is gonna wanna have this. The trick is very simple. You equip this to a creature, to your Nayela. You go to combat and you activate her without this creature and without this enchantment's help, and then you activate her again with herself, and then you can sit and put infinite combat steps on the stack. I don't like that. She doesn't need this, basically. That's the simple answer. It works, but other things already exist that does the same thing but better. So a big no on this thing. It should be some commanders out there that could utilize it a lot better. Like Darevi could use this. Pretty cool. It's not gonna be infinite, but it's gonna be a lot of mana with this thing. Like every creature basically taps for 5. Every creature that can attack and connect to someone's face is going to generate 5 mana for you. You can't target your own stuff with ward, right? Yeah, you can target your own stuff with ward, so you're fine. Regardless though, I could see someone play it, but yeah, I see better cards than this that already exist. Terraining Ground, reprint. Here's a new card. So this is a really bad board wipe. When this enters the battlefield, put a rejection counter on each creature your opponents control. At the beginning of your end step, for each opponent shoots up to 1 target creature they control with a rejection counter on it. That creature's owners puts it on top of their owner's library. Not that good, too expensive and too slow. Feast of the Victorious Dead, a really low cost enchantment, black and white only. At the beginning of your end step, if 1 or more creatures die this turn, you gain that much life and distribute that many +1 counters on creatures you control. So there is this white-black life gain commander, Voltron, that remove counters from himself to interact, and this enchantment is basically built for this card. But that commander is not that good, so no. I don't really see the name because of the glare on this photo. Little bit hard to see what it does. If this thing enters the battlefield, choose a planeswalker type. Planeswalker you control of the type have hexproof. The type is their name, by the way. As long as you control a creature, if damage dealt to a planeswalker you control of the chosen type would result in lower loyalty. It's basically buffing one planeswalker type, one specific. In this case, it's Elspeth on the picture, I think. Planeswalkers is not really a thing in cEDH. If you're playing Planeswalker as a commander, then this is good. So we have things like Estrid the Masked, that is something of a cEDH kind of deck, but it's also not really helping her. If damage dealt to a planeswalker you control of the chosen type would result in a loyalty counters on it being removed, instead all but one. It's protecting her a tiny bit, but nah, she don't need that. Just play board wipes instead. Wait, this is actually interesting. So 2 mana, 2/2 Menace Human Knight. Whenever this deals combat damage to a player, if it has fewer than 4 counters on it, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So it's gonna slowly build itself upwards towards 4 counters. Then if it has exactly 4 counters on it, search your library for a card, put it in your hand, then shuffle. So it's a very, 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 very slow Demonic Tutor. For casual, it's good. Like, Demonic Tutor is potentially really expensive. If you're playing on a budget, this could be an option for you. There's also tricks to put counters on creatures here and there in the game, various sorts. So there's a chance you could speed up the process of making the tutor effect from this thing. For a more higher power setting, it's just too slow. It's very, very slow, and it needs a build up from your deck to give it power. I think for budget cEDH, like there are budget tournaments and things that are like running on $100, $500. This could be still very slow actually when I think about it, but I could see someone making this work, having a commander that is able to put counters on your creatures in various ways and utilize this as a tutor. So yeah, I like it. I really like the part where we're upgrading budget and upgrading casual, so to say. But for cEDH, like the extreme high power level with no budget restrictions where you can proxy, this is not an option. Each other human you control gets +1 attack and has ward 1. That is not good. 3 mana flying vigilance, you have hexproof. Whenever this deals damage you gain that much life, not good. You don't need hexproof in cEDH. Instant 3 mana, target opponent exiles a creature or planeswalker they control with the greatest mana value among creatures and planeswalkers they control. Not good, too expensive. Sorcery, red, white, then 3 generic, return up to 1 target artifact or enchantment card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Exile up to 2 cards off your library. Until end of turn, you may play those cards. It's like a very expensive Sevin's Reclamation. It's the flashback cost of Sevin's Reclamation basically, with a little bit of a bonus. So it's too expensive honestly. Like, you can return your Underworld Breach from your graveyard, but we have better ways to do that already and we don't need more, so to say. Just too expensive. Open the way. Green X. X can't be greater than the number of players in the game. Okay, so X can be either 1 or 2 free. Reveal cards from the top of your library. Until you reveal X land cards, put those land cards onto the battlefield tapped and the rest on the bottom of your library in random order. It's a ramp spell, so basically 5 mana and you get 3 lands. The first 3 lands you reveal into play, and that's it. Not good. 3 mana. This spell costs 2 less to cast if it targets a legendary creature you control. So only 1 green mana to target your own commander. Target creature you control deals damage equal to twice its power to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. So it's like a green spot removal for only 1 green mana. So you have a commander and they don't fight, you just send the power directly here, right? Target creature you control these, yeah. So even a 2/2 for just 1 green mana will deal 4 damage to a creature. It's sorcerer speed, so it's kind of slow, but it's an interaction for mono green. I actually like it. If you're playing a form of mono green storm deck and you wanna deal with hate bears, this is an option for you. So it's, yeah, actually playable. I kinda like it. Filter out. Blue, 1 generic. Return all non-creature, non-land permanents to their owner's hand. Instant. That's actually nice. If someone wheels and you have more lands than every opponent, then boom. It's a really good way to actually interact with your opponents if your opponents are flooding the board with hate bears that you can't combo through. In your last opponent's end step, instant speed, 3 mana, bounce or try to bounce all hate bears, all your rocks by the way, but that's actually a positive thing too because you can recast them. Like if you have a mana vault in play that is tapped, you want this filter out to result to you return the mana vault to recast mana vault for more mana. And there's even a potential to actually make this into a ritual card to filter out, that's to say, because you're gonna return all of your mana crypts, your mana vaults, your mox diamonds, your mox ambers, mox opals, and soldering to your hand green monolith. So you can really make a lot of mana with this thing, so to say. is cast your rocks, cast this, return them and recast them and gain mana from them again. So it's great for turbo because you can use it like a ritual, but you can also use it like a board wipe interaction versus your opponent. So it's doing like both things, so to say, and it's really wrecking if you're in a higher land count compared to your opponents and someone is resolving a wheel. Nice, I like it. I think this should see a bunch of play in a few turbo decks here and there, and honestly, it's gonna make stacks really hard in the future to play, by the way. If a lot of people are actually putting this inside their deck, in their turbo decks that is. This could make turbo a little bit more capable. Like a problem with turbo decks currently is that they don't really want to play board wipes. Like a toxic deluge doesn't really do anything for you. It's a necessary evil. It's something you kind of have to play to deal with all the potential hate bear, mid-range creature decks, so to say. But this filter out is going to interact with everything, even the enchantment stacks, so to say, but also being that potential ritual. So it's like it's more of a Swiss Army knife card, more capable of doing more things compared to a toxic deluge. So yeah, really good. I think it's gonna be great. Last card. 4-mana cost, 2/5, Vigilance Dinosaur. Whenever this deals combat damage to a player, return target artifact or enchantment card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It's a little bit expensive, but like it's not bad either. Return target artifact or enchantment card. Good for casual, like very good for budget, so to say, but not good for competitive commander. It's just too expensive, too slow, and we have better cards for this in the higher power level. But if you're on a budget and you want to play tribal dinosaurs, decent. So we looked at all the cards and we clearly have a absolute winner. Definitely 100% going to do a deck tech video of this thing. Definitely going to play this thing. I think this is amazing. I really like it. I don't think I can emphasize that enough actually. I really like this. It looks fun, it looks like it has really good combo potential, or combo rebuild potential, value potential. You don't need to pay any mana for this thing, it's not that expensive. And the other card I really like here is this guy. Like it could work out. It's gonna be it's gonna be a commander that's really fun to play continuously because every game will be unique. Definitely gonna try to make a deck tech video of this too, and definitely gonna try to play this one too on my other cEDH TV gameplay channel, so to say. But that's it for this time. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I normally try to make a card review video for each individual card, but this was a bigger batch, so I made them all in one go. Looked at a lot of cool commanders. Hope you got inspired. Take care guys, and I'll see you in the next video. More card reviews are probably coming up because Wizard of the Coast seems to be on a printing spree. See you then.